Long ago, in the peaceful village of Ndiwo, there lived a young girl named Nolita. She was the kind of child who made people smile without even trying. Wherever she went, Nolita carried kindness in her hands and joy in her voice. She helped her parents fetch water, tended to the chickens, and greeted everyone with a cheerful grin that warmed the heart like morning sun. Her family didn't own much. Their home was a small mud hut with a tin roof. Their meals were simple, cassava and groundnut soup, but their love for each other made them richer than most. Ndiwo was a quiet place, filled with hard-working people who grew their own yams, kept goats, and shared everything like one big family. They lived by old traditions passed down by their ancestors, and they never forgot to thank the spirits of the land. One such tradition was the Festival of Spirits, held every dry season to honor the river, trees, and ancestors. It was the most exciting day of the year. Drums would echo across the valley. Roasted plantains and spicy puff-puffs filled the air with sweet smells, and everyone wore their brightest wrappers and danced barefoot under the moon. Among all the young ones in Ndiwo, Nolita stood out. She was gentle. She listened more than she spoke, and the children admired her, following her like chicks behind a hen. The elders praised her manners and often said, "If only all girls were like Nolita." But not everyone in the village shared this love for her. There were 3 girls, Zira, Batu, and Fali, who watched Nolita from the shadows of their envy. They smiled with their lips, but their hearts brewed storms. They couldn't understand why everyone adored Nolita. Why did she get the attention? Why did people light up when she walked by? They felt small beside her, and that made their bitterness grow like weeds in a garden. Though Nolita always included them, inviting them to join games, sharing mango slices, offering help, their fake smiles hid a secret plan. They wanted her gone. They didn't want to just ignore her. They wanted to take her place. They made it look like friendship. They laughed with her, walked with her, and slowly began weaving a trap. They knew Nolita's heart was soft. That would be the way in. One bright afternoon, while Nolita was picking sticks behind her house, the 3 girls appeared, laughing and calling out her name like old friends. "Nolita," Zira sung. "Have you heard about the festival? It's going to be the biggest one ever." Nolita turned, her face lighting up. "Yes, I love the festival, but Mama and Papa think I should stay home this year." "Oh no," Batu said with a pout. "We were really hoping to go with you." Fali joined in, placing a hand on Nolita's shoulder. "It won't be the same without you. Come na, it'll be so much fun." Nolita looked down at the firewood in her arms. Her heart wanted to say yes, but her parents had warned her. "I want to, but I can't disobey them." A few days before the festival, Nolita's parents were packing to visit an uncle in another village called Itume. As they filled their bags with dried beans and kola nuts, her mother noticed Nolita spending more time with Zira, Batu, and Fali, girls who until recently had barely spoken to her. Something didn't sit right in Mama's spirit. That evening, before they left, Mama pulled her daughter aside and said gently, "Nolita, my child, be careful. Not every smile is full of love. Those girls, I don't trust their sudden kindness. Sometimes the ones closest to you hold the sharpest blades." Nolita chuckled. "Mama, they're just being nice. Everyone in the village is like family." "You see only the good in people," Mama sighed. "But promise me something. Don't go to the festival. It's in Itum, and it's not safe for you to travel alone." Her father added, "We've left you some chores. Keep yourself busy. That way, you won't feel tempted." "I promise," Nolita said. They hugged her tightly, kissed her cheeks, and disappeared down the dusty path. Nolita watched them leave, her chest tight with longing. She missed them already. She meant to obey. Truly, she did. But fate had other plans. The very next morning, Nolita was sweeping the front yard when the 3 girls showed up again, grinning from ear to ear. "We've come to take you to the festival," Zira announced. Nolita dropped her broom. "I can't. My parents told me to stay home, and I have chores." "Oh, please," Batu said, waving her hand. We'll help with the chores. We'll finish them together. Folly stepped forward. You'll be safe with us, Nolita. We'll go together and return before sunset. Nothing bad will happen, trust us. Nolita looked into their eyes and saw only warmth, or so she thought. The idea of going filled her with butterflies. She'd never been to the festival with friends. She imagined the drumming, the dancing, the roasted maize on sticks. All right, she said finally. But we must finish all the chores first. With fake laughter and hidden wickedness, the three girls helped her. They fetched water, washed the pots, fed the chickens, all the while pretending to be the best friends anyone could ask for. By the time the chores were done, Nolita felt a glow in her chest. Maybe Mama had been wrong. Maybe these girls really cared. They set off toward a tomb together. The sky was bright, birds chirped above them, and the breeze carried the scent of fresh earth. Nolita had never stepped outside Ndiwo before, but now with her friends beside her, she felt free. They passed fields of tall millet and trees heavy with oranges. Nolita walked with wonder in her eyes, taking in every new sight. Then they reached a wide river. It ran dark and quiet as if it were hiding something beneath its surface. The water was still. Too still. Nolita paused. What river is this? Don't worry, Zira replied quickly. Just step on the stones. We've crossed it many times. What Nolita didn't know, and the girls refused to say, was that this river called Oluji was watched by a water spirit, a mermaid said to be ancient and proud. Every traveler who crossed her waters was expected to bring food when returning, as a sign of respect. Those who came back empty-handed, they vanished without a trace. Zira, Batu, and Folly knew this well, but they kept quiet. They crossed first, stepping carefully on the large, flat stones. Nolita followed, arms out for balance. She marveled at how clear the water looked, how quiet the world felt around it. Once across, she sighed in relief. The festival was just ahead, and it was everything she imagined. Colorful cloths waved in the breeze. Drums echoed through the trees. Stalls were packed with spicy suya, coconut candies, bean cakes, and palm wine in gourds. Children danced. Elders clapped to the beat of the drums. Nolita's eyes sparkled. She had never seen such joy. I'm glad you came, Folly said sweetly. Me too, Nolita replied. This is the happiest I've ever felt. But something unexpected happened. All around, young men began to take notice of her. Not Zira, not Batu, not Folly. Nolita. Her soft laugh, her calm voice, the natural way she moved. It drew them in like fire draws night moths. Among them was a boy with golden skin and kind eyes. He walked up to her, smiling. Hello, he said. I'm Oche. I've never seen you around. Are you new? Nolita nodded shyly. Yes, my friends brought me. Oche grinned. Want to walk around? I can show you where the best singers perform. Nolita glanced at the girls. Their smiles were stiff, eyes narrowed. Still, she nodded. Okay. They strolled together, laughing, pointing at carved masks and beaded bracelets. Och was easy to talk to, kind. He asked questions and listened. Nolita hadn't known a boy like him before, but the more they talked, the darker the girls' hearts grew. Zira watched with clenched teeth. Batu's fists tightened. Folly's eyes burned. They hadn't expected this. They thought Nolita would stay quiet, thankful. Instead, she became the star. She thinks she's better than us, Zira hissed. Look at everyone looking at her, Batu muttered. As if we don't exist. Folly crossed her arms. It's time we remind her who she really is, and while Nolita laughed under the sun, her enemies were already preparing the next step. Zira narrowed her eyes at Nolita from across the crowd. Maybe it's time she learned she's not so special, she hissed. The three girls, Zira, Batu, and Folly, stood together, their envy boiling hotter than ever. They had seen the way Oche smiled at Nolita. They had seen how the village boys admired her, how even the elders from Itume nodded in her direction. Their jealousy had taken root, and now it grew wild, twisted, and hungry. They knew something. Nolita didn't. She didn't know about the offering the river Oluji demanded from all who crossed it. They had crossed it many times before, and they had never forgotten to bring food for the mermaid who lived in its depths. The water spirit was fierce. She protected the river and punished anyone who crossed her domain without respect. And now they had the perfect trap. Nolita, meanwhile, danced with joy. She laughed freely with Och and moved through the crowd with the lightness of a girl who had never known betrayal. Her hands were sticky with fruit juice. Her eyes sparkled like morning dew. She felt safe. She felt happy. She believed, foolishly, that her friends truly cared for her. As the day wore on, Nolita remained wrapped in joy, unaware of the storm brewing behind her. But just as she spun around to watch a group of masked dancers, her joy cracked. There, at the edge of the festival crowd, stood her parents. Their faces were stiff, eyes full of disappointment, and they had seen her. Her heart sank like a stone. Before she could turn and hide, her father had already started toward her. His steps were slow but heavy. "Nolita," her mother's voice sliced through the drums. Nolita lowered her head in shame. "Mama, Papa, Her mother pulled her aside, away from the stairs. "We told you to stay in Ndiwo. We warned you not to come here, and here you are, dancing and laughing while we worry." Her father added, "Do you know how dangerous this path was? You should have obeyed. You must return. Now." "I'm sorry," Nolita whispered. Her eyes welled with guilt. She hadn't meant to betray their trust. But Zira, Batu, Fali, they had seemed so kind. Just then, the three girls approached, faking concern. "Oh, Nolita, are you all right?" Zira asked, pretending to worry. "Yes, her parents are here," Batu whispered smugly. Nolita's parents barely looked at them. They were too focused on their daughter. "Go home," her father said firmly, "and don't wander again." "Yes, Papa," she replied quietly. As they turned away, the three girls shared satisfied glances. Everything was going exactly as planned. Back on the path, the air had grown cooler. The sun had lowered, casting long shadows through the trees. Nolita walked behind the girls, her mind heavy with regret. She wished she had listened. She wished she had stayed home. But now, all she wanted was to reach her small hut in Ndiwo and hug her parents again. The girls walked ahead, whispering and giggling. They each had something hidden in their wrappers, small bundles of food wrapped in leaves. Quietly, they had packed offerings for the mermaid of Oluji, but they said nothing to Nolita. She followed, unaware, her footsteps slow and uneasy. Soon, they reached the river again. The air changed, the sound of insects faded, the wind went still. The river's surface was glassy and too quiet, like it was waiting. Nolita felt a shiver creep down her spine. The girls moved toward the edge and pulled out their offerings, pieces of fried yam, roasted maize, dried meat. They looked at each other and smiled. This was the moment. Nolita looked on in confusion. Her eyes widened as she saw the food in their hands. "What is that for?" she asked. They said nothing. "Zira, Batu, Fali?" Then realization crashed over her like cold. "Rain, I don't have anything. I didn't know." "Please," she begged. "Can I have a little from yours?" Zira narrowed her eyes. "We only brought enough for ourselves." Batu crossed her arms. "Your mistake, not ours." "Please," Nolita pleaded. "I didn't." "No, just a bite, anything." Fali gave a cold smile. "You should have thought of that before." Then one by one they turned their backs, placed their offerings by the stones and crossed. Nolita stood alone on the far side. Fear surged through her chest. She stared at the silent river, trembling. Her hands clutched her wrapper. Her mouth went dry. Suddenly the water began to ripple. She stepped back, but her feet wouldn't move. The calm surface twisted, and from it rose a shadow, tall, graceful, terrifying. The mermaid of Oluji. Her hair flowed like seaweed. Her skin shimmered like moonlit water. Her eyes glowed with fury. "You dare cross my river without a gift?" Her voice echoed. Nolita opened her mouth to explain, but no sound came. Those who disrespect the sacred rule must be punished. Before Nolita could run, a cold hand shot out, long fingers like ropes of water wrapped around her wrist. She gasped, trying to pull away. "I didn't know. Please." The river answered with silence. The mermaid's grip tightened. Water swirled, spinning faster and faster, wrapping around Nolita's ankles. She cried out, struggling, sobbing, but no one came. With one final motion, the mermaid pulled her under. The river swallowed her whole. All that remained was the still water. Across the river, Zira, Batu, and Fali watched. Their faces showed no fear, only twisted satisfaction. "She's gone," Batu whispered. Zira smirked. Finally. They turned and walked back toward Ndiwo, thinking the path ahead was theirs alone. But the river sees all, and the spirits never sleep. The next morning, the sun rose gently over Ndiwo, but the village felt heavier. Nolita's parents had returned, and she was not home. Her mother knocked on doors. "Have you seen my daughter?" Her father scanned every face in the market. No one had seen Nolita since the festival. Whispers began to spread. People gathered in the square, worried. Eventually, Nolita's mother found Zira, Batu, and Fali chatting under the mango tree. "Girls," she said, her voice tight with fear. "You were with her. Where is Nolita?" The three exchanged glances, then quickly put on masks of sorrow. "She was with us for a while," Zira said slowly. "Then she wandered off. We thought she was behind us," Batu added, eyes wide with pretend concern. Fali nodded. "She wanted to enjoy the festival longer." Nolita's mother shook her head. "She would never do that, not without telling me." The villagers stood silently, the weight of fear and confusion pressing down on them. One old woman stepped forward. "Perhaps the river," another man added. "There are things in this world we don't understand, things that hide in the water." A heavy silence followed. Nolita's father pulled his wife close. She trembled in his arms. "She's a smart girl," he whispered. "She'll find her way back." But even he did not fully believe it. The river had taken their child, and only the spirits knew what would happen next. "It could be something spiritual," one elder whispered near the village square. "There are things in this world we can't explain." The murmurs grew louder, and with them, the worry on Nolita's parents' faces deepened. Her mother had stopped eating. Her father barely spoke. Every evening they walked slowly through Ndiwo, calling her name, eyes searching every path, hoping to see their daughter's smile. But Nolita never returned. Her mother sat outside their home each night, eyes staring down the road. She held on to hope, but inside her chest, sorrow carved itself deep. She imagined her daughter lost in the forest, hurt, or worse. Each morning brought no news. Each night closed with heavy silence. The villagers were quiet too. They lit small candles and whispered prayers for Nolita's return. Some thought she may have drowned. Others said a dark spirit had taken her. No one really knew. But three girls, Zira, Batu, and Fali, they knew everything, and they smiled. They walked around as if nothing had happened. They even joined the search, holding lanterns and pretending to call out for Nolita. "Oh, she was such a kind girl," Zira would say. "So sweet and gentle," Batu added. Fali would shake her head and sigh. "I hope she comes back." But inside, they were enjoying the attention. Now that Nolita was gone, the boys in the village started to notice them more. Their plan had worked, or so they thought. Because even secrets whispered in the dark can be heard by the river, and the river had a witness. One morning, the girls returned to Oluji River, pretending to take a walk. "Let's make sure nothing was left behind," Batu said. They looked around. The river was quiet, still, peaceful, but then a sound, a sad, lonely melody. Up in the branches of a fig tree sat a small parrot, its feathers gray and soft, its voice trembling with sorrow. The song it sang was not just a song. It was a story, a truth. The girls froze. Each line of the parrot's melody spoke of what had happened. How they tricked Nolita. How they crossed the river with offerings while leaving her behind. How they had watched her drown. Zira's face went pale. Batu's mouth dropped open. Folly's hands shook. If anyone hears this bird, Zira hissed, our lives are finished. Without another word, they picked up stones and hurled them into the tree. The parrot flapped and dodged, but one stone struck. The singing stopped. The bird disappeared into the leaves. They sighed with relief. Now there was no one left who could tell the truth, but they were wrong, because pain leaves a trace, and love listens closely. Days passed, and still Nolita's parents searched. They grew weaker, but they never stopped. Then one evening, just as the sun dipped below the trees, they heard it. A faint chirp. It came from a bush near the path. They stepped closer and saw the same parrot, wounded, feathers ruffled, wings trembling. They knelt, and the bird sang again, this time softly. But the words were clear. The song told of three girls, of envy, of betrayal, of Nolita's cries for help, of the mermaid, of the offering never given. The truth poured out of the bird like rain from a broken sky. Nolita's mother covered her mouth, tears spilling. Her father clenched his fists, rage burning behind his eyes. The bird looked at them, voice cracking. I saw it all, it said. She was taken by the mermaid, but there may still be a way. Come with me, if you're brave. They didn't hesitate. The mother wiped her face. The father placed his arm around her shoulder. They nodded. They would do anything. Guided by the small bird, they walked down the path toward Oluji River. Their hearts pounded with grief. Their steps were heavy with fear, but they did not stop. At last, they reached the river. It looked the same as it did that day. Calm, deep, endless. The parents stood at the edge. The water reflected the sky like a mirror, but they didn't see the stars. They saw their daughter. Their voices trembled as they cried out, "O great spirit of the river, we beg you, please return our child. She is all we have, our joy, our light. We cannot live without her." Silence. Then ripples formed. The water moved. From the center of the river, a figure rose, tall, graceful, ancient. It was the mermaid. Her hair flowed like the current. Her skin shimmered like moonlight. Her eyes held centuries of sorrow. And beside her stood Nolita. Her dress was plain, her feet bare, her face empty, her eyes hollow, as if all joy had been drained from her soul. The mermaid's voice was cold. Your daughter is mine now. She crossed my river with no offering. She broke the rule. Now she serves me, that is the law. The parents dropped to their knees. Please, the mother cried, she didn't know. We beg you, she is just a child, she meant no harm. The father's voice cracked. She is our only one. Please, have mercy. The mermaid tilted her head. A long silence followed. Then she said, if your love is as deep as you say, prove it. How? They asked together. Cross this river, she said. No boat, no bridge, no help. If you make it across, I will release her. If you fail, you will remain with me forever. The parents looked at the deep water. It was wide, dark, cold, but they didn't back away. Together they held hands. They bowed their heads in prayer. Then they stepped forward. The villagers, having heard of the journey, had followed quietly. Now they stood at the riverbank watching, whispering, hoping. Be strong, an elder called. Let your love carry you. The water was freezing. Every step forward felt like a battle. The current pushed. The cold bit their legs. But they held tight to each other. Their feet slipped on rocks. The river reached their waists. Their hearts pounded. Still, they walked. Then, just as it seemed they would drown, a soft wind blew. It wrapped around them gently, like an invisible hand, steadied their steps. It gave them strength. The villagers gasped. They had never seen anything like it. Step by step, Nolita's parents made it across. When they reached the other side, soaked and shaking, they fell to their knees. The mermaid stared. Her fierce eyes softened. She had seen many travelers, many tears, many lies, but this was real. Their love had proven true. "You have passed the test," she said quietly. She raised one hand. A swirl of water lifted from the river and wrapped around Nolita. Slowly, the fog in her eyes cleared. Her body glowed softly. She blinked, then saw her parents. Tears rushed down her cheeks. She ran into their arms. They held her like they would never let go again. From the riverbank, the villagers cheered. Their voices rose like drums in celebration. Nolita was home. Together, the family walked back to Ndiwo, hands clasped, surrounded by love. They had faced the deepest sorrow, but love had pulled them back. The next day, the village was alive with music. People danced. They sang Nolita's name like a blessing. Gifts filled her home. Kind words filled her ears. But even joy can carry shadows. Because behind every celebration is a story that must be told. Word of Nolita's return spread, like fire in dry grass. The tale echoed through every hut, every path, every mouth in Ndiwo. When the villagers heard how Zira, Batu, and Fali had betrayed Nolita, leaving her at the mercy of the river spirit, they were filled with sorrow and rage. These girls, once seen as neighbors and sisters, were now looked at with eyes full of shame. No one could believe that envy had pushed them this far. Soon the elders brought the matter before the village king, a wise old man with deep wrinkles and deeper eyes. When he heard the full story, his heart sank. He summoned the three girls to his court. Zira, Batu, and Fali stood silently before him, their heads bowed low. The whole village gathered behind them, their faces tight with hurt and disbelief. The king rose, his voice strong and clear like thunder over mountains. "You have done more than harm a child," he said. "You have broken the heart of this village. You allowed jealousy to take over your souls and planned evil against one who did you no wrong. You brought pain to a family and fear to your people. This cannot be ignored." The girls said nothing, their bodies shook with shame. The king continued, "You will be punished where all can see. You will be cast out of this village forever. Let this be a warning to anyone who lets hatred grow in their heart." The people stood aside as the guards led the girls through Ndiwo. No one spoke. Some turned away. Others wept quietly. Zira, Batu, and Fali had lost everything, and they knew they had only themselves to blame. When they were gone, peace returned. The village turned back to Nolita's home, where music filled the air and hearts beat lighter again. Everyone came, bringing roasted yam, sweet coconut pudding, handmade beads, and bright woven cloths. They sat under the moon and sang songs for Nolita, for her courage, for her return. Days later, Nolita stood at the edge of the Oluji River, holding a small calabash of fruits and honey. The wind was soft. The river shimmered gently. "Great Spirit of the river," she called, "I've come to say thank you." Slowly, the water rippled. Then, rising like a shadow wrapped in moonlight, the mermaid appeared. Her eyes were no longer hard. Her face had changed. It held thought, memory, sadness. "You returned," the mermaid said in a low voice. "Why?" Nolita bowed her head. "Because of you. I saw my family again. I needed you to know I am grateful." The mermaid's gaze lingered. Then she sighed and looked down at her reflection. "There was a time," she whispered, "when I was like you." Nolita stayed quiet, listening. "I once lived in a village far from here. I loved a man deeply, but his mother, she hated me. She was a witch. She cursed me to this river forever, trapping me in sorrow." Nolita's throat tightened. "I watched people pass by," the mermaid went on. "I watched lovers meet, parents raise children, friends laugh, and I had nothing. My pain became anger. My anger became a curse. I punished anyone who crossed without respect, because no one had ever respected me." The mermaid looked at Nolita now, her voice trembling. "But then, your parents came. They risked everything, just for you. Their love reminded me that not all people are cruel. That kindness still lives." A tear slid down Nolita's cheek. "Thank you for sharing your story," she said softly. "I'll carry it in my heart forever." The mermaid nodded slowly. "Go," she said. "Live with love. Keep your spirit gentle. That kind of light is stronger than any curse." And with that, she disappeared beneath the water. Nolita stood still, watching the river shine. Peace wrapped around her like a warm cloth. The river spirit was changing, healing. She walked back to the village quietly. That evening, music once again floated through Ndiwo. Drums beat. Flutes danced in the wind. The people sang songs of joy. Then someone arrived, Prince Och, dressed in noble cloth, his steps confident yet humble. His eyes searched the crowd until they found her. "Nolita?" he said softly. She turned and her eyes widened. "Oche," the same kind boy from the festival, the one who had walked beside her, who had made her laugh. "Yes," he smiled. "My real name is Prince Och. I came to that festival dressed as a commoner. I wanted to meet people, as myself, and then I met you." He took her hand gently. "I've thought of you ever since. Your kindness, your courage, it touched something in me. Nolita, would you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" The villagers gasped, then clapped and shouted with joy. Nolita's parents held each other, eyes sparkling with pride. Nolita smiled, heart full. "Yes, Prince Och, I would be honored." The days that followed were filled with celebration. Palm wine flowed like rivers. Children ran with flowers in their hair. Songs rose under the wide sun as Nolita and Prince Oche were married beneath the ancient Iroko tree. Her gown was hand-woven silk. His robe shimmered with gold threads. They exchanged their vows in front of the village, their hearts beating as one. But Nolita had not forgotten. That night, she sat with her new husband under the stars and told him everything. The river, the mermaid, the curse, and the pain. Oche listened carefully, his brow furrowed with sorrow. "She does not deserve to suffer forever," he said. The next day, he called for the chief priest of the land. Together they prepared a great ritual, one that could lift old curses and bring freedom to bound spirits. Offerings of kola nuts, palm oil, smoked fish, and sacred herbs were laid at the edge of Oluji River. Drums beat slowly. The villagers came again, curious and hopeful. The priest raised his hands and began to chant. The sky turned golden. The river shimmered. Then, rising once more, came the mermaid. But this time her face was different. She glowed. Her scales sparkled like diamonds. Her eyes were no longer heavy with pain but light with hope. The curse had broken. "Thank you," she said, her voice like soft rain. "Your kindness has set me free." She turned once more to Nolita, her gaze gentle. "Your story will be remembered by this river for generations." With one last smile, she disappeared into the water. This time, not as a prisoner, but as a spirit finally at peace. The river calmed. The wind hushed, and Ndiwo cheered. That day, the curse was lifted from the land. Nolita and Prince Och lived in the village, beloved by all. They helped the people, raised children, told stories of bravery, love, and second chances. Ndiwo thrived, and the Oluji River, once feared, became a place of prayer and peace. And so, under the sun and stars with drums and dancing, the people lived on, and Nolita's name was never forgotten. True love, kindness, and courage can break even the oldest curses. Envy destroys, but forgiveness and unity heal. If this tale touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who believes in second chances.